This work started in Germany, so it's actually much bigger in other countries. So I know even like Spain has a bigger institution. There are a few out here. I know there's one in Santa Barbara, but I would say for a majority of them, they're like other countries, even things like Europe, like I said, Spain, Germany, places like that.
Fascinating. So you're kind of like a pioneer in this area then.
My teacher was, and I'm just following my teacher.
You're being modest. You are, how you're on track for your public speaking, and now you're offering this retreat. You're definitely like probably part of like pioneering person, bringing it over here and really like kind of putting it into the public sector.
Yeah, that's my goal. I really want to just share this with a wider group of people because it's really powerful work. Yeah, that is kind of the bigger goals. I want to share in a more public way, just like in general public. So not even just people who are spiritual, because I think everybody is just in their nature, even if they don't know it or don't believe in spirituality or God or whatever you call that. So I'd like to just kind of be more like in the general public, like a normal human. It's not like this guru who's like this fantastical thing just to share with everybody. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they're going for like the public stage, they do tend to guru-ize themselves. And I like working with people that stay humble about it. Like it's totally great and to have those goals, but like you said, like to be the guru of something like that's
a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, and
because I know I'm not perfect.
I love that it's like a very like, it's more impact than anything else is what it sounds like from you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah. That was always the goal. It's just impact as many lives as possible before I leave this earth, because I know how impermanent it is, and just want to leave my mark before I leave the world.
Yeah. I think that impact is so important. I think that when we're working with such like a human and psyche like evolution process, like Family Constellations is, Enneagram, human design, all of these systems that really like help people to transform, I think it's so important to allow ourselves to step into those bigger boots and bigger shoes to have those opportunities and get ourselves out there more to reach more people, and so that's like, I think we've talked about it before, but one of my, passions is like, my purpose and passion is to help other people fulfill their passions and purpose, so I think that.
You're already doing that.
Well, yeah. And that's, like coming back though, full circles, like it's challenging me to step into that bigger shoes and the bigger boots so that I can have more impact, helping other people have more impact. So it's like this reciprocal kind of like circle. And I love that.
Yeah, it's because, so this is what my teacher says, is you can't take anybody where you haven't been. So that's why most of our training that we do is like, I'm the client and I'm doing all my work, so I know what it's like when someone's sitting in that place. So that's what you're doing. You're like out on the edge so that you could take us there with you. So it's important.
Yeah. So tell me, I would love to hear about your personal journey with Family Constellations as a client. As somebody, when you first discovered it, not so much as a teacher, because obviously you fell in love with it and wanted to teach it, but how did you stumble on it? How did it help you? Go with what?
This is a funny story, because I had never done a constellation. I didn't know what was going to happen when we did a constellation. I just heard the word, and then I had the opportunity to start facilitator training, so I just jumped into facilitation. I had never even done, because we do workshops where it's like group work, where people come together, and then you are either a representative or you're the client. And I had never even done that. I just kind of started as a facilitator, because I heard the word, and then I had the opportunity to do. So my teacher, she does this full package where it's like you do Reiki training, you do Family Constellation training. I think it's called the Soul Mastery package. And so I had the opportunity to do that, and also to live with that teacher. Her name is Sonia Arias. She'll be on the retreat.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so it's kind of like this whole suite of like self-development courses. And so I had the opportunity to do that while I was living with her. And then that was basically my start into Family Constellations. So I kind of feel like it was more like a soul calling, like knowing like you should go down this path, because it's going to become what your life's passion would be. So it was more just kind of following my intuition at the time. But I had been studying other realms of spirituality and metaphysics for years beforehand. And then finally I got to this work, and it was like almost like my soul's like, you're ready just to jump in to learn how to do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you learned a lot about your family and your constellations through helping other people through theirs. Can you tell me a little bit more about your personal experience and journey through teaching then?
Yeah, well, I feel like it was mostly, well, like I said, the training is mostly doing your own work. Because like I said, my teacher says you can't help other people if you haven't helped yourself. Like filling your own cup before you try to pour it to anybody, because you have nothing to give. So a lot of it was really just doing my own stuff. And that's, I think, a better place to be, because it's not about what are we getting from the client. Like you really have something to give to the client. So I did learn so much. And also my teacher, she's been doing it for like 16 years, and she's like, I'm still working on my stuff. Because there's so many deeply ingrained things. Like she had a client once who came, and she was like 6 months into her journey of like diving deeply into her healing. And she was like, it's been 6 months. Like, how long is this going to take? And my teacher was like, 30 years.
Yes, healing never ends.
Never ends. Yeah. So she was like, try 30 years. So, but I think that's a good thing, because it means we're always evolving. And that's kind of the biggest idea of my book, A Journey into Truth, is there is no ending. Like there's a chapter called The Eternal Process of Evolving. What I really wanted to explain is like, you're never going to be finished on this path or journey. Because I think when I first started my spiritual path, it was like, okay, there's somewhere to get to. Then it took years for me to realize, oh, there's nowhere to get to. Like we're just developing and growing. So, and I hope to never stop, because it's kind of like the end of your process. It's just eternal. It should be eternal.
It should be, yeah. What's that quote everyone uses? It's the journey, not the destination. That's so true with part of the healing, because I mean, you could be healing things that you're not even aware of, and all of a sudden like your life opens up. It's like, oh, wonderful. And you would never have access to that if you hadn't been doing all the other work, you know? And I think it's like my coach talks a lot about unhooking things so that you can continue to move forward at, you know, higher levels, because you don't have these things consciously or unconsciously holding you back.
Yeah, and it's just deeper layers. And I think also, I spoke to somebody about this recently. It was like, it's almost like your nervous system knows that you've been able to go there. So it's like, okay, now you have more ability to dive even deeper into your subconscious and some of these deeper ingrained beliefs, because there's more strength and you have more of like stable footing, so you can kind of tackle these things that you haven't been looking at.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Good way of...
It just means you're stronger if now you're kind of unfolding a little more. You're more ready to touch it.
Yeah, when your baseline changes, like your foundation, like, okay, you're ready for the next one, and then the next one. And as soon as you think you heal one thing, another little, you know, mole pops up, a whack-a-mole thing to help you like kind of, you know, shift and change and grow. And so the title of my podcast is called Creating New Realities. And so I really like to ask these questions of, how do you see this work, in particular your version of this Family Constellations work, really kind of pushing the needle forward on our human potential and kind of like the future of our species?
How do I see this work helping people's potential and where they evolve into?
Yeah, like moving the needle forward, whether as the collective, you know, what it kind of goes into like, what your perspective on healing and why we should want to heal and all this. But like, what do you see your role in this work's role in, the human collective?
I think, so I grew up Christian, and so my grandpa was actually a Christian priest. I talk about that at the very beginning of the book. It was like my first introduction to spirituality. It was like, oh, one day there's going to be the rapture, and like, you got to be ready for it. Like, you got to be forgiven and like give yourself to God, kind of thing. But I bring that up because I think in those ideas, there's a quote by Jesus that says something like taking care of yourself and your family first before you try to take care of the world. I think that's definitely the big basis of this work, is like working in your own family and then also working on yourself as an individual, and then seeing that kind of ripple out throughout the entire world. So yeah, I think this work has the potential to really cause a lot of shift in how people see war, even because this deals a lot with like the sense of belonging. We call it belonging to the family system. And so many times if it has to do with religion, it's because we're following our ancestors who also had these beliefs, because we're carrying it in our DNA. And then that's the same thing with like if we talk about racism. So it's like connected to a lot of the things that are currently going on in our current world. And so I think just having this on a bigger, more widespread platform, or even having the ability to teach other facilitators to also create those ripples, I think it could cause so much change in the world, and also how we relate to people who are different from us, or have different belief systems, and then just kind of understanding what are our blind spots and where are we following our families versus following love. So I think it could definitely cause a lot of change.
Do you see yourself teaching this as a facilitator of facilitators?
Eventually, yes. Yeah. But I definitely want to be more like completely solidly, like my teacher had been doing it for many years before she became a teacher of facilitators. Although I think, like even in my last workshop, I noticed, like I said, a therapist came up to me and was asking about a client she had that had been adopted. And so I kind of was already in that place of teaching somebody who was from kind of a different, more scientific background. So there's already like sensitive teaching without officially teaching facilitators. Yeah. So, but I do think eventually it will be kind of what I do as I get more and more experience in the field and doing it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Speaking of the scientific track, because this is a very spiritual model that you're working with, how do you see it fitting in and being complementary to, in like the therapeutic process, therapists and even very linear coaches and programs? How do you see it fitting in with that?
Yeah, well, Reiki, it's kind of exciting that it's coming more into the field of like going into hospitals and, being a little bit more accepted in that way. This work, I think it's just very evidence-based. Like once someone finally sees it or experiences it or knows it, then they're like, oh, like I get it, like this is real. Even though I can't explain it, like I can't explain what air is, I know what I experienced and know that is a real thing that I felt. I think it has more just to do with experiencing it and knowing it for yourself. I don't know. I guess it's kind of just, it's hard to tell if it will ever be accepted in a very wide way. But I hope to be part of that process. Yeah.
Let's say like you are in a friend group right now and you want to facilitate a mini constellation with us, without going through obviously the full process. Tell me, kind of just like walk me through what would happen in this session.
Okay, yeah, so if it was a group work, so what I did in my last constellation, what I do in all of them, and also keep in mind, every facilitator, it's like chefs, they have their own style and their own way of doing it, also because of all the background that came before them and where they are now. So the way I like to do it is very intuitive. I do have background in like psychic and mediumship development, so that's very much kind of a foundation of what I do and how I do it. So I will usually pick the client. Some people, they allow the client to pay a little bit more, and then they would have a guarantee to be able to work. The way I do it is more like everyone pays a flat fee, and then I choose the person to work with, because I want it to be more up to the field, the morphogenic field. So this is like a healing field, to choose the person who is the most right and can cause the most impact for the entire group. So that's what I did in this last workshop. Was I tuned in, became very present, and then I looked out into the audience, asked them to raise their hand if they felt ready, and then I tuned in and chose the person who I was told to choose. And then it was very perfect what happened. And then I'll also choose representatives that way. So for that, I didn't even ask people to raise their hands. I just looked around, and then I was told like it's there in the back. I just told clairaudiently, so that's like where you hear it in your head. So what I heard was, she's in the back, and then I was told walk a little farther back, and then I came right across her and it was like, this one, choose her. And it turned out to be the most beautiful unfoldment and process that happened, and the right people. So I also told them, like, you have freedom to say no if you don't feel ready or you don't want to be part of this, but you are the right person. So just trust if I choose you. But thankfully they were all just like, yes, I'm ready. So I chose the right people. So what I do is I'll do an intake. I'll speak with the client that I decide to choose. It's very important where we're all facing, because if I'm facing like this with the client, it's very oppositional versus welcoming and kind of bringing down their safeties and their guards up. So we sit at a 45-degree angle. Usually we're sitting, but in the workshop we were standing. And then I'll just ask them different questions. So like, what do you want to work on? And then I also am asking them to become very present in their body. So sometimes I'll just kind of sit there and breathe with them, just kind of creating rapport and helping them to feel safe to go there and to dive deeply. It just takes a moment to get to the root of where did this come from? What were your past experiences? What happened with your mother? Just asking different questions until I get to a place where I'm like, okay, this is ready. And it's also intuitive because I'll be told, okay, choose these people. So for example, I was told choose her mother, choose her inner child. And so I chose these people. They come up, and then I have the client put her hands on their shoulders and then place them wherever she feels they belong in the room. And wherever they're standing, how they're facing, what their body language is like are their hands closed up? Are they like this? Anything at all, it gives information to me about what's going on in their family or about the person and what they were like. You step in as a representative and you really feel the emotions of these people or whatever hasn't been processed in the family or in that moment in time. And then we just go through the process, and I'll have the client kind of say healing sentences between family members. It doesn't even have to be people. Sometimes, like one time I brought in courage. Sometimes if it's like a recurring emotion like sadness, we might even just bring sadness. And then that person will help to move through whatever energy was stuck that never got processed that is connected to sadness. So it's a really beautiful process and hard to describe until you're actually doing it or watching it. That's kind of like the basis of a little bit of a basic about what we do in a constellation.
Yeah, beautiful. What would you say?
Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. And I've been a part of a constellation. It was over the phone with a group, but it was a while back, so I don't have all the details. But I was like fascinated by the process. And I was like, because I'm such like a structure informed, like how does the process is like, how did this and how did you know to ask this and this, and it was such like it was a cool experience. And I'm intuitive too, but like it was such like a new thing for me that I was like, I really want to learn more, but then I kind of let it go and got into other things. But
and that's who we are.
I know, right? I feel like it was a good synchronicity that you found us. What would you say to somebody who's curious, who wants to know more, but they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how deep it can or doesn't have to go sometimes, but how would you kind of like gently like share with them what this work is and how they might benefit from it if they haven't done any like inner work?
Yeah, well, my first thought when you were asking the question was you don't have to know anything at all. There's this facilitator out close to where I am. His name is Ivan, and he shared about his first time ever in a constellation. Someone asked him to come in and represent a father of somebody. And he told them, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. I don't know what this is. And on top of that, I've never cried in my entire life. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm not good to cry. So they brought him in. He agreed, like, okay, I'll just see what happens. And then he said that was the first time he's ever cried. And he said it was one of the most powerful moments for him. And so that's why he decided, like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because of how moving it was for him. So that was kind of my point is you don't have to know what this is, because it's not a mental thing that you can grasp. It's more just like this experience, this deep spiritual movement that you can't really describe.
how would you describe what people can get out of doing a constellation, whether they know the process or don't know the process, or they've done inner work or not inner work, but like what would be some like tangible life benefits that people could get out of this?
This work is so wide and can be applied to any area of life. Anything that causes pain or you feel is not conducive to your highest good. So it's kind of hard to describe what it can bring to you because you're like, anything. Like for example, not every facilitator does this, but I like to work with pets. And so it's like, because I have such a deep love for animals and pets. I've worked with pets and their owners for many years as well. Like that's another part of what I do for work. And so when I started to really want to go more into just doing constellations, I still want to work with pets in some way. So like a lot of people, or maybe some facilitators don't work that way. But like if it's someone is processing grief and they can't really get over that hump if their pet passed away, like this can really help to process whatever is under the surface that maybe they're not able to touch. Because sometimes like I've noticed in constellations where I'm like, my eyes are watering and I feel sad, but I can't go there because there's so many protection mechanisms, or I'm just not able to touch that deep emotion because it's so big. And so sometimes doing a constellation can help you to really get down underneath. Because if it's a lingering emotion, it's because we haven't touched the depths of where it is. So once you're able to touch those emotions and fully let them process and let them out, then it doesn't kind of linger or stay. If it is lingering, it's because you haven't processed it properly or completely. So anything at all. So it's like I said, not a lot of people think you could do it for pets, or even like bringing a pet in, because this is very energetic. So let's say you want this specific energy of a pet. We could even bring in like a theoretical pet, or figure out, I could put in options. So like, let's say I put in a dog from the Animal Pound, or a dog from Craigslist, or a dog from whatever. And we put these specific energies in, and then have you step into each one and see which one feels right. So anything at all, like if it was like, I want to move, but I'm not sure where to move, we could put those places in and then see what feels the most aligned with your highest good. And it could even be something you're not even thinking of, and it could help you make the right choice for your soul or your highest good. So yeah, it's for anything at all. It's really cool work.
Yeah, and I think especially people don't know the profoundness of like getting access to grief that they haven't dealt with for years and years, and like how their life can transform. That's a little immeasurable when you say it like that, which is amazing. But even that it helps on a practical level with moving. Like now I want to do a constellation because I'm thinking about moving somewhere. So
yeah, like that, or even if it's like the right career path, or like how do we figure out this issue that's happening at work. Or I had someone who, she always found herself in workplaces where there was like an overbearing coworker or whatever it was. And so what we taught her was like, standing in your power and your authority doesn't attract these same people because you're not on the same energetic wavelength any longer, because you've stepped into your power. So that's kind of the solution. So it's just finding solutions to any issues in life. And there's a good book called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Bolan. So if anybody's interested in like learning about this work, that's a good place to start. He's my teacher's teacher. So I learned his work passed down to me from my teacher. But yeah, he's basically saying whatever you're currently going through, it never started with you. It started with people who came before you. And so what we're doing is kind of releasing whatever ties, or we call them hidden loyalties, or entanglements in the family that maybe we're unconscious that we're carrying, so that we can move forward more freely into the life that we want to be living.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And creating a new reality for your life based on your
Yeah, I recently told somebody, my teacher told me it takes 2 years to see the full manifestation of whatever we worked on. And that's because we're working on a very energetic level, and the physical needs a little bit of time to catch up. But you may notice if it's something that's not as deeply ingrained, it's like fast. Like we did a constellation to find someone to adopt a dog, and then it was like, we knew exactly what it was. I think there was like 3 options, And then one of them felt so right. And then like sure enough, that person ended up taking the dog within like a few days. So sometimes it can be very fast, but sometimes, most of the time, especially if it's deeper beliefs, it takes a little more time to catch up to physical reality.
So you have a lot of events coming up. I would really love to hear more about your ideas and your passion behind the retreat that we're planning. So tell me about the upcoming events. Tell us what you have planned and what's in the queue for the next year, and then drum roll, then we'll get to the retreat.
So I am currently, so my next one coming up is September 2024. So I'm going to Alaska. I've been to Alaska last year, and then they invited me to come back this year. But this time it'll be a little bit longer. Last time it was just one small workshop for like 3 hours. This time we're doing a full day of teaching about what Family Constellations is, kind of like an introduction. But I'll also be going deeper with the people because we'll have more time to work together. And then the next day will just be like an open for the public workshop. And then also during that time, I'll be going somewhere called the Atom Center. It's ATOM, Ancient Teachings of the Masters. And they want me to come speak and then also do a workshop for them as well. So that's my next one in September. And then I also have next February, I'll be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo. And that'll be like a 90-minute presentation. So recently in Utah, I did the Energy Healing Conference, and that was only like 50 minutes. And so it was perfect though, because I didn't even keep track of time. It just was like trust. Like that's the biggest part of being a facilitator, is just trusting. And it was like so perfect because I had just a couple minutes left to explain about the retreat and what I do, and I do sessions. And then it was like, okay, good, we're on time and ready. And but I wasn't even like keeping track. So it just takes trust. But yeah, so February, 90 minutes. I think it's on February 7th. It's on the Friday.
Perfect. And that's in Los Angeles, right? Or that's San Diego?
No, Los Angeles.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
Yeah, so I'm working on like the ad and stuff, and they told me it's going to get sent out to like 40,000 people. So it's a bit wider of an audience, so it's pretty exciting.
They're huge. They do a lot of, like, I keep hearing around them, they like produce a lot of amazing events, and it's a big deal. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about that. So there's that, and then I think after that it's mostly, well, actually, I think Colorado wanted me to come back. So that's at For Heaven's Sake. So that's going to be sometime next summer. But I'm not sure if that's going to be before or after we go to Ireland. But it's pretty cool because it's almost like every center I've been to is like, hey, come back next year. So yeah, it's just kind of creating little connections here and there everywhere I go. And then just building, relationships and then coming back eventually, which is fun because it's like having little families in different areas of the world, and then they know when you're coming back. So then you get to see them again. So I love that. I've met some incredible people, really sweet, just genuinely interested in like their own development people. It's really beautiful to meet people from everywhere.
And I think when you connect with people on such like a deeper level, it's almost like you become part of the family because you've helped them shift something or see something. It's like that familiarity is like deeper. It's more at a soulful level with this kind of work, I can imagine.
Right. So my teacher, Clinton Swain, the public speaking teacher, he says anybody who comes into his room and like shares that energy, it's like it changes them forever. And I feel the same way about the people I work with, because my teacher, Sonia, she says that you attract people who are working on the same things you're working on. Or like, let's say you've gone a certain amount of ways. Those same people, you will be attracted who need to get to where you are. So like for me, I've worked a lot on my motherhood stuff, my stuff with my mom. And I notice I work with a lot of people who have mother stuff as well. And I think it's also because I'm still like working through that stuff, but also because I've already gone this far that I know where they are and how to get them to where I am currently. And so, yeah, I definitely noticed that.
Very cool. Yeah. So you mentioned it, you dropped it So we're going to talk about it. Ireland. I'm
Yes.
excited. Yeah, tell me. I mean, I know a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but for the audience, yeah, what are you doing in Ireland in 2025?
Oh, it's going to be so exciting. It'll be my first time for like a much longer amount of time to work with people. So I'm so excited to just dive even deeper. Like we can go so deep in just a 3-hour workshop, and I feel like over the course of, we're going to be there for 8 days, it'll just be completely like life altering and life changing for the people who come. Yeah, lots of really exciting things. So we're currently working on like the curriculum and the flow of everything, and I love watching that process because then I know how powerful it's going to be for whoever comes. And then also little things like the filmmaker who's coming, Rebecca Tolley. That's really exciting. We're really excited to have her on board. But yeah, it's very much like, to go back to the beginning of when we first started talking, was you wanting to help people realize their dreams and their potential, and this has been a big dream of mine. Like I said to you many times, Abraham Hicks was my like first teacher, my first like, oh my god, like I was such a fangirl. I met her once.
Ooh, nice.
on a cruise, and I like ran into her. I feel like my soul was like, you need to go this way, because I remember that feeling of like I have to keep moving, like just pulled. I talk about this in my book too, and I like, it was almost like I couldn't help it. Like I felt like my legs were flying. Like, you just go. And then I came across a guy that I had dinner with the night before, and he was like, Esther Hicks is right there. And I was like, oh my god. And then I just ran up to her and I was like, Esther. And I got to say hello. But I think, like, I used to be a background actress, so I've come across a lot of like famous people, and I never had that fangirl moment of like, oh my god. But when I met her, I was like, Esther, you changed my life. And so that was such a cool moment to be able to have, especially because I had like, we had gone through the whole cruise, and that was like towards the end of the cruise. So a lot of shifts had happened for me just from watching her speak. But yeah, since then, it's been my dream to be able to do that for other people, like to transform out somewhere they've never been before. And so you're kind of really helping me to realize that dream and make it a reality for other people. So
I'm honored to be doing this work with you. You know, it's fulfilling so many things for me too. It's like, you're like I think I've told you this too, like you're the ideal type of person I want to work with, because you're motivated, you're ambitious, you have purpose, you have a mission, and you want to increase your impact. And you can't ask for a better motivation for me, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing by working with people with you and helping you, you know, with the systems and the business type of stuff to allow really this platform for you to like just continue to keep elevating. And so like it's been an honor to work with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's definitely like, I feel like, you know, when your souls are aligned with something and like you're meant to meet each other, I definitely feel like this was something that was planned before we even decided we were going to do these things.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to ask you, how did you find me?
How did I find you? I was just looking online for many different places and sending out emails to spread Family Constellations, because I was so passionate about getting it out there some way. So I was looking up like retreats, I was looking up, that's how I found the Energy Healing Conference, and a lot of places I reached out have been like, yeah, come. So
Yeah.
So it's almost like I just put myself in little places where maybe doors would open, and then they just started to open for me. But people like were excited. They were like, yes, I've heard of that, but we've never had someone come to the store, and I'd love for you to come. So yeah, definitely, it was just like right timing. Also, before I even started the action process, I was doing constellations with my teacher about business, about career, about opening up different doors. So I think that energetic work was happening before, like I said, the physical kind of caught up to it, and I started taking the actions to get there. So it's a lot of Sonia's work.
But it's a lot of leading by example. If you're walking people through that exact same process and you're doing it yourself, like what a testament to the work.
Well, yeah, because then I can see the effects of what happened after I did that work, and the different actions I was taking because of the work we did. Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited. Yeah, we'll drop all the information on the retreat and Alexis's upcoming events in the notes of the show, but mark your calendars, July 5th through the 12th, 2025. We're going to Ireland. We're starting out in Dublin. We're going to this beautiful, beautiful, like historical boutique hotel called the Cliff at Leon's. And then we're kind of like trekking our way across to the western coast. You know, we'll be visiting castles. I think we have a bunch of excursions that we kind of are in queue, still deciding on. And then we're gonna go over the cliffs of Moher and a beautiful retreat center out there, and just a lot of adventure and some sightseeing, but really like that'll be like the perfect backdrop to integrating the work that you're gonna be doing with Alexis. I'm so excited because my whole passion too is transformational retreats. And so to invite people to know that they're going to go through such profound work that, you know, in a retreat setting, and then they can just like integrate when they come back by working with you more. Like, it's just like the perfect model. And like, I just love doing retreats, and I love that coaches and practitioners of these very spiritual processes can incorporate them into this beautiful, just transformational experience.
Yeah, and definitely it's just really exciting to see how it's coming together, and definitely for people who feel ready to come, it's going to be like life-changing. Also because Sonia will be there, my teacher, and so I'm really excited to just introduce people to where I come from, really just dive deeply with people. It'll change your life. I'm not kidding. Because I've been doing spiritual work for like 10 years, and the reason I knew Family Constellations was the work I will do for the rest of my life is because of how powerful and how moving it was for me. So I would love to work with whoever is ready to come and ready to change their life.
Yeah. So if someone wants to get a hold of you ahead of time and work with you, what kind of offerings do you have for either one-on-one, or do you hire yourself out to do smaller groups, or how can people work with you before the retreat?
Yeah, so both. Obviously it depends on like travel, how much the travel will be. If someone wants me to like leave California, but I am willing to do that as long as I have time and it works with my schedule. I also do one-on-one sessions, and I do those through Zoom, and it can be done with cards. So I use cards as representatives versus other people. So that is a thing. I have like a platform, I think it's like setmore.com/vibrate to create or something like that. We can send that over to you if you're curious. You can also email me, vibrate2create@gmail.com, and then that's even a good place to reach me to find my booking. But I also do a free discovery call if you just want to ask some questions or connect with me, see if this is the right fit for you.
I'm excited to watch the world discover Alexis and more about constellations. Thank you so much for being here and just sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And you have such like a beautiful spirit, and I'm so happy to support you and create new things with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for working with me.